YB stays on your neck.
Big asset for heavyweights because most heavyweights, they're throwing big bombs and
They're looking for that one punch.
Yep. Yeah, and you just pile them on, man, and you're throwing them at all these angles, and especially when you get in tight with dudes, you know, like when you're in tight with dudes in these dogfights, your punches are coming at all these different angles and so fluid. Yeah. It's beautiful to watch, man.
Oh, thank you, man. Especially with these big guys. I love fighting bigger guys. You know, one time I fought a guy that was shorter than me, and it was kind of hard. So imagine, especially with these big guys. I love fighting bigger guys. You know, one time I fought a guy that was shorter than me, and it was kind of hard. So imagine, especially with these big guys. I love fighting bigger guys. You know, one time I fought a guy that was shorter than me, and it was kind of hard. So imagine me pressuring bigger guys and throwing these combinations. It works for me really good.
Yo, my dance, make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, and obviously hit the bell for notifications. So we just heard there from Andy Margin Boo Ruiz, aka the dude who just let slip how to whoop himself. Listen, you can't get this on no hat, man. You can't get this anywhere else. Only exclusive on the Y. Only the YB's bringing you these deep insights. This right here is leaked. Ain't no one got, number one, ain't no one got this video. Number two, ain't no one got this analysis. It's deep, evaluative, investigative journalism coming in hot. Only on YouTube and Patreon, obviously. Anyway, so we just heard there from Margin Boo. They were talking, him and Joe Juicy Rogan were talking about, well, Joe Rogan was essentially sucking Andy Ruiz off about, oh, Andy Ruiz, I love how quick your hands are. Oh, Andy Ruiz, I love it when you get in close with these dudes. I love it when you throw shots on the inside, all this sort of business. I love you when they get into dogfights. And then Andy Ruiz starts nodding his head, obviously agreeing with all the arse licking that's going on. But then he actually goes over to Call of Duty, because he adds in some of his own perspective. He says, listen, I love it. I love being the small guy that gets into all the nook and crannies against the big tall dudes. And then he puts in, and this is the part where he slips up accidentally. This is the part where YB's deep 190 IQ investigative journalism brain snapped into work. Because Andy Ruiz then says, oh yeah, and by the way, when I fought smaller people who were equally on top of me, I didn't like it. Now, and this is what people have often misunderstood, but luckily, because the YB's got 10 out of 10 boxing IQ, he understands it well. What have people been saying? What's the narrative been? Oh yes, AJ needs to box. AJ needs to do what he's never done in his whole career. AJ needs to learn how to fight backwards in 4 months. AJ needs to become Tyson Fury, even though Tyson Fury's proven that running backwards with no power bollocks gets you beat up by bums. That's what people have been saying from the start, no doubt. Oh, AJ needs to run backwards and box long. Oh, yeah, really smart idea that is. AJ needs to do something he's never done in his whole career. Yeah, it's a really smart idea that is. Knowing my man's got a limited gas tank, at best. Limited at best. Not one fight has he ever walked backwards in his life. Apart from, actually, no, tell a lie. There's been one fight AJ's walked backwards in. And that was AJ versus Ruiz. And what happened there? He got his ass handed to him on a plate. Factual stuff, you know. If I'm lying, show me a fight where AJ has ever taken a back step or ever walked backwards and tickled a jab in someone's face. Just name it for me, please. Please name it. I'm dying to know this. And I've been asking this. And even to this day, every video I make talking about this particular subject, for whatever reason, people still say, oh, YB, I still think he needs to do it backwards. But no one can show me the evidence of this. For all you know, he could be worse. In fact, the actual evidence supports this, what I'm about to say. The actual evidence is AJ is worse at going backwards than he is going forwards. Because guess what? The Ruiz fight, he went backwards. And he boxed awfully. He looked like a fish out of water. And not only that, it completely taxed his legs and his whole body. His jabs were weaker because he's used to... When you're moving backwards, look at Fury. Fury don't hurt no one. That's because he's going backwards half the time. Not to mention, he's got no power. But my point is, AJ's effective coming forward because that's where you got your momentum. What's the point the only point of punching going backwards is to try and tickle someone and kind of irritate them, as Fury does. Anyway, back to the topic of this video. Andy Ruiz says here, I don't like fighting. I don't like it. I don't like fighting small fighters because they're the ones who put it on me. I like fighting big, long people who like to run, essentially. And this is what Andy Ruiz has been saying from the start, or for these last few months now. Oh yeah, I can't wait to fight AJ. All he can do is run. This turns him on. Do you understand that? Look at Ruiz's pad sessions. Show me one time he's going backwards in any of his pad sessions. Show me it, please. You don't see it because he's got no plans on going backwards. And this is what happened to AJ, unfortunately. This is why I believe AJ. Of course, there's all the suspicions, but let's take AJ at his word. Let's say he was perfectly fine that night. If he was perfectly fine, we've got to look deeper into what happened then. Okay, AJ, you're right. We're all mugs. We're all conspiracy theorists, and you were fine. Well, unlike Rob McCrackhead, unlike whoever else, we're going to analyse what went wrong then, because for us, it's not just a bad performance. That, for me, wasn't just bad performance. It was well beyond that for me. So this is what I believe happened. He got in the ring, and for whatever reason, he decided to go backwards. And what we know, as I've been talking about for these last 4 or 5 minutes, AJ isn't used to that. He's actually used to being the hammer. In every fight, or in most fights, there's a hammer and there's a nail. AJ, historically speaking, has been the hammer. In fact, I can't think of even against great fighters like Dillian Whyte. What happened to Dillian Whyte? He got hammered. Dillian Whyte's known as the brawler. What happened to the brawler? He got hammered. He became a nail. AJ turned him into a nail, and rightly so. Klitschko, and that's actually the Klitschko fight is actually a perfect example because this explains what I've been saying all this time. Listen, the Klitschko fight for me was the first fight which really turned me on to AJ in that sense. And why I say that is this. Go back and watch the Klitschko fight. Watch the first 4 rounds. You'll notice AJ's very apprehensive them first 4 rounds. Doesn't do much. And what do we know about the first 4 rounds? They were the most competitive. They were the ones he was essentially losing. Because he wasn't doing what he normally does. He was way too apprehensive. And he was way too moving backwardsy. He wasn't getting stuck in 2-2s, round 5, for whatever reason. I actually thought at the time it was a game plan of theirs. They kind of wanted to catch Klitschko slipping. I thought their game plan was 4 rounds, let Klitschko get into a rhythm, and then stick it on him. But for whatever reason, round 5 came along, and AJ stuck it on Klitschko. What happened then? He put him down. Now, obviously, AJ's gas tank went and whatnot, but the point is, AJ was arguably losing the fight for the first 4 rounds. The minute he does what he's good at, i.e. come forward, and honestly, watch the fight. Watch the first 4 rounds. He doesn't take any real strides. And it turns out now, on hindsight, obviously, AJ was anxious or anticipating a lot because he was obviously stepping up. And psychologically speaking, his mindset was more. He basically gave Klitschko too much respect because the minute AJ got into the fight, and that's what happens sometimes in boxing. You'll hear fighters say, "Oh yeah, once I got hit, I was all right." It's that, and this is what in my little experience of boxing, I struggle with more the anticipation. As an example, the guy I train with, my trainer, whenever we do sparring. And I tell him that I'm always anticipating. I'm always essentially, I guess you could call it scared in a sense of getting hit. So I always want to be way too defensive and not throw anything in case something comes back. He always says, "Well, whenever I have hit you, you've never taken your gloves off and threw your toys out the pram and walked off or whatever." Meaning that you have to get over the anticipation because when you get hit, you're not going to go anywhere anyway. So just get stuck in. My point is, after AJ got hit by Klitschko, he got stuck in, and what happened then? He was sticking his tongue out, he was loving it, he was talking to Klitschko, and that's when his best side came out, when the anticipation was gone, and he was getting stuck in. As it happened, that same situation never happened in Andy Ruiz's fight, for whatever reason. He got hit, and normally it wakes him up. In fact, even the Dillian Whyte fight. The Dillian Whyte fight was aggressive from the start, but the bottom line is, AJ got hit with a good shot, and that riled him up, that got him more smoky. So my point is, in the AJ versus Ruiz fight, we can actually see a lot of the anticipation once again. Because for the first, God knows, he came out, and in the AJ versus Ruiz breakdown I did on Patreon exclusive, I talked about how, well, not talked about, it's obvious. AJ spends, even though he hasn't been hit yet, he's just going backwards against Ruiz. And I don't know what's happened because historically speaking, when AJ was fighting lesser competition, he never took it back. He was the one being the hammer. He was the hammer, and that's what I believe AJ is going to have to do. It's one way or another. I think part of it's to do with the champion the champion. It's like the not negative, but it's like something that haunts champions. I talked about it before, but people like John Jones, when they're on the way up, they're completely explosive, ferocious. They're hunting. And then they win the championship, and all of a sudden they go in distance every time, and they can't get a stoppage for love nor money. And I think AJ suffered with that to an extent as well, because when he was coming up hunting people, he was completely focused. He wasn't sloppy, he wasn't brawling, but he was a single mind. Then when you win the belts, it becomes about, oh, let me win, let me not lose, sort of thing. Rather than going out and winning, they kind of go in there just not to lose. And I think the Ruiz fight really was the culmination of that way of thinking, because he came into that fight way too defend. It was like he was trying to defend the belts. That's what it looked like. Oh, I'm going to come in here, I'm just going to defend the belts with a jab, rather than going in there and saying and actually doing. He talks about how the belts go up in the air, but you weren't fighting as if the belts were up in the air. You were fighting as if you had something to defend, meaning you were fighting. Oh, let me just protect these belts, rather than saying I'm going to take them from you. And hopefully this time, because he's a challenger, his mindset will be back to normal. But anyway, back to the point of this video. I've given you that all explanation to basically say AJ's best parts in every fight, whether you take the Klitschko fight, first 4 rounds were nothing. He gets stuck in, he gets hit, he gets stuck in. The more he got stuck in, the more Klitschko fell over. Dillian White, the more he got stuck in, the more he fell over. Now, some people could say, oh, why be you talking rubbish? Because when AJ hit Ruiz, he ain't got hit himself. Yeah, that Ruiz fight weren't. I don't believe, honestly, hand on my heart, I don't believe them same shots hit AJ on a normal day. I don't know what's going on, but all I know is AJ's taken much better shots than that before. And just look at the way the fight went. Everything Ruiz hit him with, he fell over. And it was not. We've seen Ruiz in there with bums. Ruiz can't hurt a bum. Ruiz couldn't put over Dimitrenko 3 months before. It's got nothing to do with Ruiz's magical hands. Something was fundamentally wrong with AJ's central nervous system. That's what I put it down to. And with that in mind, my mum was just falling all over the place. It just didn't look right for whatever reason. So what I'm trying to say is, I think the worst thing AJ can do is go into this fight and try and do something which he's never done in his whole career. Because not only has he never done it in his whole career, not only is he not genetically made for that, not only does he not have the skills for that, not only does he not have the cardio for that, also, if AJ was planning on going backwards and he was fighting Fury, I don't think it's the best way to win that fight. But you can say, well, you know what, AJ, if you want to try that, I think you can still win doing that against Fury. However, against Ruiz, he's told you here how to beat him. When you fight a fighter, you want to do what they don't like. You don't want to do what they like. Ruiz, being the smaller man, as he explains here, he's used to. This is what he loves to do. He loves coming forward all day. That's what he does well. That's what he loves to do. He loves to chase sweet-smelling aromas. He loves to when a big. What do you think Ruiz smells when he sees a 6'6" black man chiseled like Hercules running backwards? Never mind Ruiz. It turns me on seeing that. I'm not even fighting the man. Yeah. Ruiz that's what Ruiz. The minute AJ starts going backwards, Ruiz starts smelling these deep pheromones coming out of AJ's arse, smelling sweetly. Yeah. What AJ needs to do is get into the fight, hold his feet, and then stick it on him. That's what he needs to be doing. The same way he's done his whole career, but more importantly, what Ruiz doesn't. Even if you discount what AJ's done his whole career, different fights require different tactics. And I hate to be a broken record here, but look at Canelo. The first fight he got schooled by Golovkin, in my opinion. Golovkin trolled him after the fight. Oh, you said Mexican style. You promised this. You promised that. The second fight, he fixed it. Different. You can't. And that kind of proves to me that tactics do make a big difference. I never used to be a big fan of it. I used to think, well, you just do what you do. But in reality, it proves that Canelo, who had the same skill set as before, went from losing a fight to winning a fight. Not based on anything else, just based on pure tactics, which tells me AJ can go from losing a fight to winning a fight on tactics. We've already tried the going backwards business. We've tried the. When AJ hit Ruiz, he was so tight. He was so He was so. You could just see it. As I watched it back the other day. You could see his back muscles really tight. He was just like proper going for it too much. And I felt like he was almost. I think what came to my mind is when he talked about, oh yeah, the Deontay Wilder knockout a week before or whatever it was. That's what it looked like, actually. It looked like he was trying way too hard. And I think part of the problem is, when you spend a lot of time going backwards in the fight, in that fight, in that third round, when he started exchanging with Ruiz, that was the first time in the whole fight he even had an offensive exchange. Meaning, he wasn't warmed up for it. Does that make sense? When AJ goes into a fight, and from the first opening bell, he's stepping forward with the jab. He's dinging a 1-2. Every combination that you output, you're warming into the fight. You're getting your wheels going. Meaning that when it comes to that 4th and 5th, 6th round, when you're actually getting to the point where it's going to start scoring or hurting people badly, you're warmed up. AJ, on the other hand, went from 3 rounds of literally skating the skirts of the outside of the ring and peppering a weak-ass flippy jab to try and exchange after having done no warm-up. Does that make sense? That was that third round, so 9 minutes in, he hadn't even thrown any offensive shots, which in my opinion shows why he was so tight and so overthinking it and trying to force it, because he wasn't in the rhythm of it. Being offensive, there's a rhythm to it. That's the word I was looking for. Being offensive, there is a rhythm to it. And he needs to establish. You can't turn it, in my opinion, you can't just turn it on or off. Look at Fury. He has only one rhythm, that's backwards. The minute he can't turn it on or off. He ain't got no power for it. AJ has got the power for it. He has got the genetics for it. Meaning, when he goes into this Ruiz fight, he needs to go in there with a single purpose and start off from the start of the fight, have the same purpose, have the same tactics, and warm into it. Get your jab, get your off. It's if people say, oh, get your jab going. It's not just one jab. If you're going backwards and throwing a jab, it's not the same as scoring and going with a jab. Step in and jab Ruiz in his face. Be in the pocket with him. And actually, I've got another video coming out soon. I don't know if you lot watched it, but if you watched if you watched all of the Errol Spence versus Shawn Porter pre-fight, what do they call it? Pre-fight videos. Where they were watching Kenny Porter and Shawn Porter training, and Kenny Porter went mad at Shawn Porter and said to him, "Listen, when you get in the pocket with Errol Spence, because Porter was essentially sparring someone, and Kenny Porter or Shawn Porter during the sparring got in the pocket with someone and then took a step out, and Kenny Porter went mad and said, 'Why are you taking a step out? Be comfortable. Stop panicking. Stop being trying to anticipate.' Because Shawn Porter said, 'Well, I was anticipating this.' He said,
What are you moving for?
I have to stay ready.
No! You have to do what I just told you to do. Be confident in your ability to pair a shot off. Listen.
Yes, sir.
I don't give a who steps in here with me right now. I'm not budging until the punch comes. When there's a storm going on, the only person that survives it is the person that's calm, not the person that's panicking. Flying all over the place, tornadoes, hurricanes, the person that's running, that's the first one to die. Be calm in a storm.
Don't anticipate anything. When you get in the pocket, be comfortable there. Be relaxed. You know if a shot comes back, you can catch it or whatever, or defend it however you choose to do that. You don't have to be anticipating. And what do you know? Look at the Shawn Porter versus Errol Spence fight. What's Errol Spence used to? People getting in the pocket with him and then them trying to escape from him. Shawn Porter didn't do that. Shawn Porter was throwing arguably better body shots than Errol Spence was. He bullied the bully. That's what's important here. He bullied the bully. And the difference is as well, Shawn Porter was able to take the shots from Errol Spence. Errol Spence is the bigger man. Errol Spence is the harder puncher, allegedly. On AJ's side of things, AJ, you're the bigger puncher. You're the bigger man. So it's laughable to think you'd even consider going backwards. Because you're not... People say, oh, well, he's tall. Yes, he's tall, but he's not tall and skinny like Fury. He's tall and powerful. That's the difference. There isn't just tall and small. There's tall and powerful and tall and useless like Fury. AJ's not a tall and useless. Meaning he don't need to be going backwards so much. Anyway, for me, like the title says, Ruiz is accidentally exposed. Has accidentally exposed how to beat him. Whether AJ takes the YB's advice is another story in itself. See what you lot think anyway. I'm sure there'll be people who still believe he needs to go backwards, and maybe he pulls it off. I'm calling it now. If he goes backwards, the same as the first fight, he loses in devastating fashion. I'll be intrigued to see what you might think anyway.